Hi guys, and welcome to this video for Year 12 Business Management. We are on Unit 3 Outcome 2, which is about Human Resource Management. And in this video, we are up to the final key knowledge point. We're going to think about how disputes are resolved in the workplace. What do I hope that you specifically get out of this video? I hope we're going to look at the key knowledge points, so the part of the study design. I hope that you understand an overview of the dispute resolution process. We're going to think about what is an industrial action, what are the options for it. We're going to then think about how this can be these disputes can be resolved, including grievance procedures. And then there are really 4 options, and there are 2 specific ones in the study design: mediation and arbitration. We're also going to think about negotiation and conciliation, because the key knowledge point says including, but of course mediation, arbitration, and grievance procedures are the most prominent here. So what do we mean by an industrial dispute? We have been talking in previous videos that there is an inherent conflict between employees and employers because of employees' desire for high wages, good, strong working conditions, which cost money, maybe even not to work as hard, and business's objectives are to maximize profit. There is a conflict. This means that sometimes this employment relationships cannot be managed effectively. There can be a breakdown, and this is when industrial actions occur. Industrial actions refer to an employee or an employer. We'll look at one way an employer can do this: takes a certain action against the other party to force discussions, to force a settlement and end of a dispute. They are hoping to gain improvements in terms of their agreement. Now, an example here is a strike, but we will look at some other options as well, because strikes are very significant. Now, it's important for businesses to avoid these disputes, because anytime there is an industrial action, even a minor one, these are time consuming, costly, financially in terms of, and also in productivity, also in terms of their reputation. It can damage the employee's morale and motivation, which we know is inherently linked to objectives of the business, if we think about previous key knowledge points. And it is damaging to the long-term employer-employee relationship and their culture. So what are some of the ways that these actions can form? What are some of the ways that these actions can be created, or what can they take? We often think of the most disruptive, but we should recognize that some of these are not as disruptive, least disruptive to most disruptive. These operate in a continuum. And generally a business, employees, because often it is the employers doing this, because they're the ones that are unhappy, and you can see these are the employee actions. They will start at the least disruptive. Passive resistance, so just a general lack of cooperation to complete tasks. A work to rule, they might refuse to do anything more than the bare minimum. A boycott, refusing to do something specifically or dealing with someone. They might refuse to deal with a specific supplier. They might do a stop work meeting, where they hold a meeting during normal working hours to discuss their issue, and hence production stops. They might then do a picket line where they physically demonstrate outside the business and don't let others coming in, aimed at stopping production. And then we might get to this strike where employees withdraw their labor. So you can see that there is a number of ways that employees can let their businesses know that they are unhappy via industrial action, hoping in their eyes to hopefully get some change. Now, employers can also take some action. They might lock out their employees, not allowing them to come, not allowing them to work, which might feel a bit counterintuitive. But if the employees are doing lots of actions and being disruptive, the employers might go, well, you know what? I'm not going to let you go to work. I'm going to let you feel what it's like to not be paid. And that might actually mean the employees, for want of a better term, cave first. Now, what are the major causes of industrial conflicts? We can split these into 2. We're going to do this relatively quickly. Disputes that relate directly to what is in the negotiation of the awards or agreements. And this might involve their remuneration, their conditions, other matters, and other causes. And you have a read of this. Or it could be disputes related to things outside the industry awards or business-specific agreements, like their working conditions, job security, particular policy that a management might have, political or union issues. So there's lots of reasons why there could be disputes, and I'll get you to pause the video to look at that a bit more. The good news is, in most people's eyes, that these actions have been significantly reducing. And yes, it has stopped at 2010 here, but this isn't still something that we are seeing. There is an argument that this has been happening because as we have moved to a decentralized system, the advantages that we saw in the previous key knowledge point, 2.9, more flexibility, better relationship with employees and employers because they're negotiating directly, means there is less industrial action. Also, if there is less reason to think that an entire industry will do any action because there's more specific agreements. Now, before we go through how these are fixed or resolved, for want of a better, because fixed isn't a great term, it is important to understand that some actions are protected and some are unprotected. Who is the umpire in determining all of aspects of workplace relations? The Fair Work Commission. And a protected industrial action refers to any action taken by a party, a strike, a picket line, a lockout, a stop work meeting, that has been approved by this Fair Work Commission. If the Fair Work Commission has not given approval, we would say it is unprotected industrial action, and really important, it is unlawful. That party has broken the law. So strikes can be against the law or not against the law. Now, any party involved in an unprotected industrial action may be subject to legal action. They might be ordered to order fines or compensation. So how does an industrial action become protected or, in a sense, ticked off by the Fair Work Commission? A number of things must occur. I'm going to go backwards. The other party must be informed of this action at least 3 working days in advance. The other party needs to understand that this is going to happen. Doesn't mean that they can stop it. That would be inappropriate, but they will know it's occurred. They're going to be able to plan for it. The logic being many of these industries are very important, and this will hopefully limit the chaos that might occur. Now, these industrial actions are very big decisions. So for it to be protected, a majority of members must vote in favor of it. So the majority of the employers or union members. And the union must conduct a secret ballot to get an actual gauge that a majority of the members agree to this. If these occur, then it is suddenly protected. Now, when this occurs, an industrial action has occurred, logically, there should be when there is an industrial dispute, this is hopefully going to be overcome. And the parties, the employers and employees, or their union representatives should engage in a number of different approaches. These include negotiation, mediation, conciliation, and arbitration. Now, logically, this will also work as a bit of a flowchart of the options that they should occur. Because logically, we should try and overcome these disputes internally, so in the business, so just with those parties, prior to going external where it is resolved by the umpire or the Fair Work Commission. Now, regardless of where you end up in this, all businesses must have agreed steps on how this will occur. And we call this the grievance procedures. Simply, what are the procedures that should be followed when there is a dispute or a grievance? Because grievance is another word for a dispute. So grievance procedures are the formalized steps, a set of steps, formalized, I think, of agreed and written down, of the orderly system in which employees and employers should resolve their matters. How should they fix their disagreements? These disagreements could be due to lots of reasons, and this is some of the options here in your flow chart here. Now, logically, the employees or the representatives should be able to meet with management to outline it. Management should listen and try and resolve it, and if not, refer it to someone more senior. And if this no longer is able to then be resolved, then we will start to flow through to the options like negotiation, mediation, conciliation, and arbitration. So finally, what do we mean by these methods? Negotiation is the least formal method, and it is an internal one. This involves direct discussions between the parties to reach a compromise or agreement, and it doesn't involve the Fair Work Commission. So simplistically, and ignore my horrendous drawing, the employee and the employers should get together in a room and negotiate. This is the most effective when the business has created a trust and demonstrate that they appreciate the input of their employees, and this is often a consultative or participant management style. And it means that the people in the room will need to have really strong communication and interpersonal skills because they are looking for essentially a win-win. They're hoping to negotiate in the least formal way a way out of this dispute. Now, if that doesn't occur, there is no way to get a resolution, then we might move to mediation. This is a little bit more formal, although it still works internally, doesn't involve the Fair Work Commission because it involves a third party, a mediator, to assist the parties to work together towards their own agreement. So in this case, we will have the employer, the employee, but also a mediator, which will facilitate. They will not give suggestions or solutions, but aim to get both parties communicating in an open and non-threatening way. So this will mean still we are hoping that the two parties negotiate, but it will involve sometimes discussions with the mediator to facilitate this negotiation. Still no umpire determining what is going to occur, determining the agreement, no use of the Fair Work Commission. If that doesn't work, then we move to where the Fair Work Commission is going to be involved. In industrial disputes that cannot be resolved, the Fair Work Commission is the National Independent Workplace Relations Tribunal, the court, the umpire. They can help resolve disputes in ways, and these include used through conciliation and arbitration. Now, conciliation is the process that occurs when a third party, the conciliator, participates in a resolution of a dispute and attempts to resolve the differences through discussions. I think of it as very similar to mediation. We still want the two parties to negotiate, but now the mediator is the Fair Work Commissioner or the Fair Work Commission. They still hopefully they are not going to give a ruling. They will resolve differences. They will make suggestions. So that is different to mediation, but they aren't going to be determining what's going to happen. That will only occur in arbitration when the Fair Work Commission becomes the judge and hears both arguments and ultimately determines the outcome. So this is where the employer and the employee don't negotiate. That is not working. They will present their arguments to the Fair Work Commission, and the Fair Work Commission is the one that determines what is going to occur. So unlike conciliation, where the tribunal member will make a non-binding, legally binding suggestion, a suggestion that doesn't need to be agreed on, doesn't need to be implemented, ultimately, because we come to the final step, the Fair Work Commission will make a legally binding decision, and this must be followed even if the parties don't agree. And they are the processes, but we should still, even if we haven't got disputes, be assessing the health of workplace relations, because positive workplace relations is central to business success. Because we've seen the negative impacts if it breaks down. All this time, money, reduced morale. So management, even if they feel like they have a healthy business, should be regularly conducting workplace relation audits to ensure that there is a healthy debate, a healthy respect from the parties. They will be checking to make sure that there is strong employee participation in decision making, strong productivity, strong levels of staff morale, low absenteeism and turnover, and not much incidence of industrial action. We are doing audits to make sure and checking on these KPIs to make sure that the workplace relations in a business is healthy and really strong. And for now, guys, that is our final key knowledge point. I hope it has given you a good overview of the dispute resolution process, including grievance procedures, mediation, and arbitration.